All right, we're back. We're live. What's up, everyone? My name is Sunny Ray. This is the Sunny Ray Show. Today, I'm with Ashley Heron. Am I saying your last name correctly?
Heron, close enough though.
Heron. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, no, I definitely wasn't close, but thank you for being nice. Did Ashley tell me, man, where are you calling in from?
Los Angeles, Hermosa
Los
Beach.
Angeles.
Yeah.
Good. So I like to just kind of dive into the deep end. Is it comma? Do you want to give us like the kind of the paragraph or two on it, the elevator pitch or whatever, and then
Sure.
we'll kind of come back to it and go deeper later on in the interview. But I like to just start there. Yeah.
Yeah, Com8 marketing technology agency, primarily focused on health and wellness businesses. So quietly powering a vast majority of the boutique fitness space, and do everything from marketing implementation to application development, and sort of have seen the scale of services along the way.
Yeah, that's quite a wild title we got going on. The man who wires the gym industry. Can't wait to roll up our sleeves and get into that one. But I like to start at the beginning. So, if I'm not mistaken, you grew up in Sarasota, Florida. What was a young Ashley obsessed with?
Young Ashley was obsessed with the ocean, the water, just sort of not technology. Sort of found myself here. Really always wanted to work in sort of music or transformative categories, and was always sort of ambitious to get out of Florida and go explore the rest of the country. But young Ashley was a surfer and waterbound individual.
Cool. So music business at Belmont. Why that path and not something, I guess, more obvious?
Yeah, I mean, I think in life you sort of like gravitate towards the things you're passionate about, and then certainly as young Ashley was like very interested in being in music, and found myself with a partner at the time who was moving to Nashville to sort of explore her music career, and I've sort of found Belmont as like a great like relationship between being in business and sort of understanding the mechanics of like being an entrepreneur and growing, but also like having a foundation in music and something that I was incredibly passionate about. And so got connected to Belmont, where they had a music business program, just right on the edge of Music Row, and wanted to work at record labels. Sort of recognized very early when I moved to Nashville that while I might have been a talented musician in Sarasota, Florida, I was a wildly untalented musician in Nashville, Tennessee. And so very quickly realized that my association with music and my ability to like be a part of that category was going to be on the business side and not playing an instrument. So went through the music business program there and ended up working at record labels for a little over 10 years, and sort of a really interesting and transformative time in music when we were building and introducing social networks for the first time, servicing our music to iTunes for the first time, just like a digital revolution from moving from CDs to like a digital interaction, both on a one-on-one where artists could connect with individuals through social, but also sort of the method in which they distribute their music was changing dramatically at the time, and so was very fortunate to be a part of that and experience very large and successful artists growing in their careers.
So lyrics, street records out of college. What did Disney teach you that's still in your DNA today?
Oh man, what did Disney teach me? It was interesting in that we were a Disney-owned country label, but we were sort of all by ourselves in Nashville, a very small team, 20 people. And so I don't know if Disney specifically taught me anything beyond like the power of scale. We worked with a band called Rascal Flatts. They had a song called "Life is a Highway" in the Cars movie, in the Pixar movie. And I think while we had sort of had worked for Disney and were sort of a part of that element, that was the first time that we really experienced scale of Disney and the impact of being a part of the promotional cycle of the Disney machine. But I think I learned a lot from the people who I worked with as well, that like robust dialogue and communication, and the way that you speak about your product and the way that you the method in which you make noise in marketing were like have sort of stayed with me over the years, and sort of take a lot of the lessons I learned early on, maybe as like a very impressionable youth member. I was 20, I think, or 21 when I first started working in music. I sort of taken a lot of those key principles with me of like how we communicate externally, how you communicate with your team, and the value of repetition maybe is probably the best thing that I learned there. That like that doing the thing over and over again makes you good at it. Not doing the thing once makes you good at it. And I think that's hard for some people, especially people in like early parts of their career. I sort of felt like I was in the same position for years, but I also sort of look back at that and say that's what made me really good at it. That's what sort of gave me the infrastructure and path to do what I do today.
So 6 years in country music marketing, right? So what was the wildest deal you ever closed?
Oh man. So I had a little bit of a journey. I started in the promotion department in radio, moved into digital marketing, and we were doing our, very first, like I remember we serviced our first song to iTunes as a Josh Grayson record. And that was like wild for us, right? It was like a company that's anchored on CDs, and sort of navigated that. But I think the wildest deal I ever did was I had moved to a company called Big Machine, and they're like Taylor Swift and a variety of other large country artists. And I remember I was working with Taylor Swift one time, and they were doing an album release week. And a lot of times when artists do album release weeks, they want to just basically go and be present, to make noise, right? To go on the late night talk shows, and to go on, at the time Ellen was a popular show, or to go on Letterman. And Taylor had this idea where she wanted to fly and do all of these various events across the country in New York and Los Angeles, but to fly with her fans to like participate in that event. And so I remember they basically called and said, "Hey, we need an airplane for this activity." I was like, "Oh, like you need like a decently sized like private jet to fly." And I'm like, "How many passengers are there going to be?" We're like, well, we want 2 winners from every radio station and reporting radio station in America. And I'm like, "Oh, there's like 150 reporting stations at the time. So it's like 300 people." So it's like, "Oh, you need like a real airplane. Like you need like a real jetliner." And so we ended up partnering with JetBlue, where they gave us an airplane to do all of the like album release travel. But in exchange, Taylor Swift had to do a surprise pop-up concert at JFK's Terminal 5. JetBlue was promoting their New York to Los Angeles route. And it was just so awesome to like see people coming and walking through security, and then like Taylor Swift was performing in like the lobby of the terminal, and sort of became like this really special, intimate concert moment. But that was sort of the trade. The trade was do this special moment that we could turn into video content, and in exchange, we'll give you a 747 for a couple of days to travel around the country with your fans. So that's probably the wildest deal that we did. But there was some pretty interesting moments in music at the time.
So I've got a 1-year-old rolling around here, so hence the background noise.
I have one of those too.
So big Machine, Taylor Swift era. Like, what did you actually learn watching, that machine work?
I think like the importance of presentation, whether it was Taylor Swift or any other artist, like the method in which you compose yourself, and the method in which you talk, and the method in which people interpret you is like as important as your product yourself. And so to watch like a relatively young Taylor Swift or a relatively young artist sort of scale significantly into the things that they go through with relationships, and the things that they go through with like highs and lows and career success and career setbacks. The successful ones always knew the impact of presentation, the impact of like how they communicated to their fans, the impact of like when you had an opportunity with your fan to say something or take a photo, that they would take away that moment, those seconds, those 5 seconds, for stories for decades. Even I still retell stories from those, very small moments together. But I think that the biggest takeaway for me was just like how they all recognize that. But they were also like, I think they were always lifelong musicians. Like the artists that had one song still tour. Like they were born musicians. They weren't born musicians who ended up getting a job somewhere else. That's who they were, and that's who they will always be. So I think like the confidence of their direction, the understanding of presentation was always like something that stood out to me.
So you moved from Nashville to LA for Hyphen. What pulled you out of music and into digital?
I think 2 things. One, Hyphen, I used to hire them. They were my vendor. They helped me sort of do out of the box things. We did like the first augmented reality CD cover, and we did like the first 360-degree music video. And I used to always call this company, and they would never say no. No matter what I wanted to do, they would just say yes. And we figured out 95% of them and 5% did not. And so I always really liked that. I always really liked the idea that if you could write it down in a sentence, if you had unlimited time and unlimited budget, like you could do it. And to some extent, like there's people in our space now, you know, that do that. Like Elon wants to go to Mars, and he actually has unlimited time for the most part, and he has unlimited budget, and so he can go do that. And so I was like empowered by that philosophy. But then I always felt like, while music was like exceptional in its reach, like I would work for an artist and like it would go around the world, the category itself in the business was really small. You know, Lyric Street, which had with Rascal Flatts, the album was What Hurts Most, was the number one selling record in all of music, not just country music, but all of music. And I think our entire record label, while we had certainly supporting staff at Disney, was like 15 people, and like upward mobility and management and scale. Like felt limiting a little bit. Big Machine, when I was there, I think we had 50 people, and you know, we had the most popular artists in, you know, in the entire format of country music. And so I just felt like if I was ever going to like grow, not that I couldn't have grown there, but like in the growth that I wanted, I knew I had to eventually leave. And so I was working with this company who never said no, and that was super empowering. They were constantly recruiting me, and I wanted to like feel the entrepreneurial side. And so I, I moved out to Los Angeles. We were like 5 people in an attic, you know, like it was like a dramatic like adjustment. I went from, you know, working hard on something and being able to go to a concert and having like this emotional reward for the work that I did, to like, you know, 5 or 6 people like in an attic in Hermosa Beach with an ocean view, no light, no less. And I was living by the ocean, which I always wanted to do, or get back to, given my Sarasota roots. But it was very different. Like I had like this intellectual entrepreneurial reward, as opposed to like the emotional reward that you would get by like going and talking to a fan, or seeing, you know, 30,000 people appreciate you were like one part of like a very big wheel of the music industry, but you felt attached to the value that those people got out of it. So yes, I navigated from Nashville to Los Angeles primarily because I just wanted to push myself, and I felt like I could do that at Hyphen.
And then you climbed to chief digital officer, right? Over 9 years. And what was the hardest year?
The hardest year. What was the hardest year? Oh, I don't know. We went through so many like evolutions at Hyphen. Ended up being a couple hundred people at the end when we sold in 2016, and then I worked for the publicly traded company that acquired us after that. I think that the hardest part was just knowing when to prioritize. We were like bootstrapped for the vast majority of it, and recognizing that like enterprise value of an organization typically comes from product, but product isn't always attached to revenue, was like a really hard decision that the founder and I had to make a lot. That like how do we allocate funds and how do we allocate resources? But I never felt like the organization dealt with like challenging points that weren't people, right? Maybe the hardest part was like finding the right humans to grow your business. And, you know, even running the business that I'm in now, like the staffing remains like the hardest part about our organization. About like, even if we have exceptional people, like are they like the top of the top, and do they sort of look around the corners, and do they constantly try and solve the problems that we don't get sucked into just like Ashley can solve it. The hardest part was probably building the initial foundation of like the core team, because we went from 6 or 5 or 6 people to a couple hundred people, but the core people stayed together. They were there all the way through the entire process, and I think getting that group was probably the hardest part. And then doing the work was just showing up at work every single day and trying to grow the business.
And Hyphen was a Snapchat launch partner, right? So what did that front row seat teach you about platforms?
Yeah, we were one of the very first like 4 badge partners, which means like we were like an authorized partner for Facebook, Snapchat, Pinterest, and Twitter. Um, now famously X. I I think that yeah, much like in my career now, and much like in music, like I've been either because I'm like a millennial and we've gone through dramatic change as like that uh, age group of people. But while music was going through like a digital transformation, and figuring out like how do I interact, like how do I consume music when I was there, Hyphen really went through the paid social interaction. Like there was no such thing as a paid social ad when I started at Hyphen, and by then that was like the vast majority of our business. There was no the Pinterest didn't exist, Twitter didn't. Twitter was around, but like didn't have sufficiently monetizable networks. Snapchat didn't even exist when we started, and so I think building like riding the wave of like what does it mean to advertise in social was like a really interesting time, and those partnerships allowed us to do that, to candid, like as much as you can jump up and down and say like you have expertise, having the authority of the platform and having the referral of the platform really allowed us to scale, and to significantly grow our business into the hundreds of millions of dollars. So I would say that the platform side of it just like re-emphasize the importance of relationship, and the importance of expertise, because without that we certainly wouldn't have gotten to where we got.
And then 2020, you actually, sorry, before that, when did you realize that the agency game was about to change forever?
I don't know. I feel like the agency game changed forever more recently than that. I believe that agencies have always provided like either know-how, right? They know what buttons to push. They know how to run media. They know how to, uh, you know, advertise, or they provide like the strategy, like the what to do, right? And I would say like at least at Hyphen, it was always both. It was always we were able to monetize, and we were able to offer to the market the ability to both sell how to do something, but also sell like what to do. I would say more recently, though, especially with like the transformation that's occurring through AI, that marketing technology, which is the space that I'm in now, I think is the how to is like kind of disappearing. The everybody can sort of solve for the how through a chat box on ChatGPT or Claude, and so the value has like transitioned in our business from selling how to selling what. And I would say that I don't know if agency was meaningfully shifted at Hyphen, but what is agency is like going through a dramatic transformation now, and I think we're still trying to figure out like what that means for us long term, and what does it even mean to be marketing technology in our space today. Because I think what it was 6 months ago is not what it is today, and what is going to be in 6 months is not what it is today. So we're still actively navigating that as an organization at Comma 8.
And then in 2020, you walked away from CDO, right? So why fitness? Why then? Why two companies?
Yeah, Y2 companies is more of a product of like narrative. Sprint Forward and Comma 8 still report to the same tax man, but Sprint Forward is really about like discipline, technical discipline, about big technical lifts, application development, website development, and Comma 8 is more about marketing technology. And so it felt like we didn't want to be like the cheesecake menu of agencies where like you can sort of do everything. And so we just felt like the two names end up being two disciplines. But why now, or what did we do in 2020? So we were acquired at Hyphen in 2016, and went through a process of a couple of years of working for a publicly traded company that was then acquired by another publicly traded company. And I think I had just like reached the conclusion of that journey, and the the company that acquired Hyphen in the second time was basically really focused on SMBs. They were, everything that they did was about like how do I service like the small business, and a vast majority of Hyphen was solving for like Fortune 500 companies. And so I think there's just like a little bit of incongruency with what they wanted to do and like what I think I was good at. And so there was an opportunity in 2020 to start Comma 8 and Sprint Forward. And to start the business with revenue, which is rare, right? We had clients that we could start with and clients that would fund the business, and didn't have to sort of like bootstrap it for a while. Like we had built-in revenue, and so sort of seize that opportunity. I will say though that it was never intended to be what it is today. At the time, I think it is very much what it was supposed to be and what it always ended up being. But we were just going to be like 5 or 6 strategic operators doing very strategic projects. But we started, our very first day of work was January 6th, 2020. And by like March of 2020, like the pandemic happened. And everybody in our space, because we were focused on health and wellness and boutique fitness for some other reasons, which we can re-explore, everybody needed a digital solution overnight, right? The gyms closed, everybody closed, but they still needed to run their business. They still had members that they wanted to keep paying. They needed Zoom solutions. They needed live stream solutions. They needed methodologies to like run virtual one-on-one training sessions. And so we actually scaled basically to the staff that we are today within months. And we solved as many digital solutions as we possibly could for clients in those first 12 months of the pandemic, and sort of have really anchored ourselves in the size that we are now as a result of that initial scale. We decided to do health and wellness primarily for 2 reasons. One is the category tends to share like common infrastructure and common technologies, and so we felt like if we could share that lexicon throughout our entire organization, that we could allow the businesses to be their unique discipline or their unique path or their unique structure, but not have to re-educate our staff. So it's sort of like a built-in operational efficiency to be in our category. And then 2, the universe does a pretty good job of like pulling you back into like what you're good at. And I felt like I was good at this. And so I felt like health and wellness is if you're going to be in agency services and if you're going to provide that service, you might as well do it in a category that helps people feel good about themselves. And so it felt like it was a little bit of a positive reinforcement for like why I do what I do, but also like is a category that's just ripe for operational efficiency, and felt like we could bring that discipline to a bunch of multi-location health and wellness businesses and help them thrive.
Yeah, feeling good is definitely underrated. I'm a big fan. I had a big unblock a few years ago where I started waking up early and kind of like stacking a bunch of like really positive habits early in the day, like working out and swimming and then visualization and all this stuff. And it's had like a profound effect on the rest of my day and as a result of my life. Hey, I was gonna ask you, what was the moment data science clicked for you as like kind of the real opportunity? Hey, by the way, Ashley, are you gonna hate me if I eat? My wife just delivered some ribs.
No, do it.
Yeah, keep going.
Data science. I think from a data perspective, I think it kind of it turned focus over the past 2 years to not just like executing the work, but to like understand the value of the work. And so I believe that, as many things in life, whether it's like a hammer, as rudimentary as like building a house, like as tools evolve and as tools get presented to you, the opportunities open, right? So Snowflake became like a transformative tool that helped us better do data science and visualization efforts, and reporting platforms became stronger, and AI has certainly transformed. Like the chat interface is just like an amazing way to interact with data. I think data was always present, but sort of the tool sets that allow us to take advantage of it have materially matured to the point where it allowed us to actually do the thing, right? It's like very difficult to build a house without a hammer, and we now have the hammers to be focused on data and to like really get meaningful value out of it, and to help make decisions. There's so many like gut-based decisions that if I look back in my career in technology and marketing that we did, like we feel like this is going to be the right decision, and that's just not required anymore. You don't have to feel anything. You can have divinity in the things that you do and the decisions that you make, and the sort of scientific. You can like finally apply like the scientific method to the marketing that you're doing, like test, hypothesis test result, hypothesis test result. And I think that's probably more a product of time and capacity than any sort of unique revelation on my part.
So you spoke at RetrieveX on retrieval for generative AI. What's the bet there?
Maybe clarify that question. I'm not sure if I'm that guy.
Oh, maybe not. Well, we'll move on. If you had to point to one insight that changed how you build companies, what is it?
One insight into how I build companies. Probably like the value of thesis. I think, and sort of like the importance of like staying true to that. I think there's been many times when we've had an opportunity to deviate from our thesis that would have been a distraction from becoming sort of who we are. And I think so the confidence that like your initial insight or the path that you're on should not deviate. I also feel like it's like a motivating. Uh, and maybe this is like self-fulfilling as a manager, but I think it's motivating for team to have it as well, to like have singular focus on what you do and to like refine that. I think yeah, I think thesis is probably the thing that I've learned the most over years, that like if you can stick to that, you can indoctrinate that and you can not deviate. It's much easier to accomplish your goals than to get distracted by revenue, which is quite easy to do when you have payroll and you have growth in mind.
So walk me through comma 8 in 1 minute. Like who do you serve? What do you fix?
Yeah. So in 1 minute, Come8's a marketing technology agency. So we service primarily three categories of businesses. Boutique fitness, so your Club Pilates, Pure Barre, Stretch Labs, Row House, Rumbles, a variety of very popular boutique fitness franchisees. So we're powering sort of the infrastructure that makes them work. So it may feel presentationally easy to open up your Club Pilates app and make a booking, but there's a ton of technology that goes into that presentationally simple interface. We also work with big box gyms, so your Crunch Fitnesses, and then we do a lot of med spa work. So Skin Spirits, Lay Solani, Birch, Ject, etc. And that's primarily again because they have very technically complex problems that need presentationally simple solutions. And I think that's where like it's a really interesting category to play in, and that it may be, I just want to log in and book a class. But logging and booking a class is very different than the infrastructure that goes into place of managing multi-locations and managing data compliance and managing accessibility and managing the empathy that you have for Club Pilates Redondo Beach versus Club Pilates Manhattan. And there's just like a tremendous amount of thought, mindfulness, and technology that goes into running something at scale. And that's what makes our jobs interesting.
Exponential fitness, right? So 10 brands, 2,500 locations. What did building that platform actually take?
years in investment. That is by far our single largest technology initiative at our organization. I think starting small, right? So started with one brand, started with Cycle Bar in maybe right in 2020, and then have scaled that to like a significant and international at this point. Club Pilates I think is in like 15 or 20 different markets around the world, but it is just significantly doing the most important thing next. So starting with one brand, scaling to multiple, and then trying to satisfy it. I think you've seen, if you've followed the space, Exponential really invested in like infrastructure and features. And when you're thinking about becoming a franchise owner, it's sort of I get asked this a lot of like, why do I become a franchise owner and which one do I pick? And so I sort of like point people to be like, anybody can start a Pilates studio, but the companies that you choose to franchise from that show significant technical or capital investment is who you choose, because you don't need to worry about the app. You don't need to worry about the website. You don't need to worry about the landing page. You don't need to worry about the promotions. You can have access to contests and promotions, etc. The platform has grown significantly, primarily because we've been feature additive. Like, how do we provide value to franchise owners to grow their businesses or to entrench their members? And the platform has just gotten significantly large not because like you open up the app, you open up the website and it doesn't look simple to use, but because of the ancillary tools that help franchise owners be successful in their business. Touches literally every aspect of the website, mobile app and the tools available to them. But time, resources, and thesis, I think, will be reemphasized in what does it take to build a system for 3,500 businesses.
You've said most clubs sit on thousands of data points, right?
Mm-hmm.
That never talk to one another. So why is that still true in 2026?
I mean, we have access to more data than ever, and it's like sifting through the noise is like paramount, right? Every single day, hundreds of thousands of users open up a Club Pilates or a Pure Barre or a Stretch Lab or a Yoga 6 app, and that interaction becomes meaningfully important to like making that easier, to making sure that it's working, to handling data compliance, to doing insights, to determining lifetime value of the member. One of the big challenges that our category faces is attrition, right? People get tired of working out or they don't use their membership and they want to leave. And so, how do we find moments to engage those customers to like push them over those breaking points? If I use a round number, if on average people the lifetime value of a member is 6 months, if I can get them to do one more month, that's 15, 20% additional revenue. And so a vast majority of the data points go into retention and acquisition. And so how do I get more customers into my funnel, and how do I retain them longer? It takes a bajillion data points and a ton of insights to make sure that we're communicating at the right moment to sort of extend the life of their membership or re-engage them to make sure that they still retain value. My wife goes to Club Pilates, and she's a diehard, right? She goes 3-4 times a week, and but that consistency and that the quality of the teacher and the quality of the space and the availability of the classes and all of those things are data points. And so how do we sort of pull those together to make sure that she continues to be a customer well past that attrition point of 6 months? Well, she's blown through that and she's well on her journey, but just assuming that your customers keep coming back in any line of business is insufficient.
And where does AI actually move the needle for a gym chain, and where is it just noise?
Yeah, great question. AI has definitely moved the needle in the staffing support. So upper funnel engagement has been transformative for the category about how to get people booked into a first class. How can you avoid office staff at the desk? How can you avoid staff to follow up and chase down leads to get them to come into the studio? That sort of chat-based or voice-based interaction has been dramatically transformative to our category, like the upper funnel lead generation. I think there's still like a little bit of unknown is like boutique fitness is still like it's still a utility, right? Like I still want to browse a schedule, and I still want to book a class, and I still want to cancel my class, and I still want to buy a membership, right? It's sort of like a banking app. And so I think the category is still trying to understand like where can AI be additive but not devalue it, right? It doesn't seem like it's really willing to go to like chat interface. Like, do you have classes on a Thursday? Book me. Maybe for the advanced user that's interesting, but I still feel like there's like presentation of information problems. I think there's also like AI opportunities with obviously engagement long term, and then complementary. A lot of the people in our space are thinking about ways in which you can add products. Like longevity is hugely important in our category. And so how can Big Box Gym offer supplemental services or nutritional products, or how can wellness clinics offer referrals to specific type of workouts based on an individual's maybe physical limitations or physical opportunities. And so I think there's still like a lot of untapped opportunity in AI in our space, but I will say that our space is firmly adopted and entrenched the upper funnel engagement and basic information and customer service management that is almost all replaced at this point by AI in I think a very positive way that's not devaluing to the customer who's trying to just get their first class booked.
What's the next billion-dollar opportunity in fit tech that nobody's talking about?
If only I knew, I would be there. I think I'll just give you some generalizations. I think longevity is certainly a transformative category in our space, and I think you see like these longevity clinics popping up, and I think complemented with programming I think they'll be exceptional. I think standing alone, I think they may be challenged. I think anything that can remove friction to lead generation is a huge opportunity. Again, I think AI has already been fairly transformative to that space, but I also think that you and me may be farther along, and like, of course, people are doing that. Of course, I can build that. Versus like the actuality of like, a Rumble studio owner in, I don't know, St. Louis, or they may not have the capacity. They may be a second job. It may be something that they were sort of passionate about boxing. They did this, like, to actually deploy some of those technologies. There's still a barrier to, and I think just like the personalization aspect of my fitness journey, even if I'm going to a cycling class, can be different than someone else who's on a bike next to me, is an incredible opportunity, not only for entrenchment to the studio that they're in now, but to how that customer sort of evolves in their journey along the way. Fitness, I think everybody generally knows that fitness is good for humans. Movement is good, but actually getting people to do it is shockingly hard, and it's not inexpensive. And so it's both a cost problem, a time problem, and an effort problem. And anytime you can add barriers to something, or something that's on some degree of repetition, it can be hard to retain. But I think my summary would be like longevity with focus, personalization, in studio, or sort of in theme, and then sort of AI enablement to complement their journeys are probably the biggest ways that this technology, but which is both transforming our space but can transform the fitness space as a whole, is super exciting to see where we go.
So help me land the plane 5 years out. Where does what does Comma 8 look like? And
oh my gosh, we've been struggling. Not struggling with this. We've been thinking about this a lot, because, as I mentioned earlier on, the work that we are doing today is significantly different than the work that we did 6 months ago. Things that we used to productize, or things that we used to build, or things that used to be managed by a product manager and technologists and front-end developers and back-end developers, are developed on a Tuesday afternoon by a media buyer, right? And so I think that there's a significant change and a significant shift from know-how to strategy, and will certainly be that. But I also feel like there's still like really good news, in that like our value was never in like what buttons to push. It was like when to push the buttons. And so I think if I'm looking 5 years in the future, like there'll be less operational responsibility. There'll be less drudgery of the 80%. There'll be more focus on the 20%. And I think that you'll see that foundational products that can be customized will win. And you've even seen that in our business, that everybody needs a website. Everybody needs an app. Everybody needs lead generation efforts. Everybody needs a method of making a purchase. And if we can standardize that infrastructure, but allow it to be customized and personalized and tailored to those businesses, I think those platforms will win. And so I think our category and where we will be in the future is like standardization of platform with customization, and a vast majority of our time focus on what to do as opposed to how to do it, will be where we sit. I think there's always going to be value in humans, and to some extent, I sort of saw a post recently that it was something to the effect of, in the future will be like 100% human powered will be the value proposition of services. And I think that confidence in decision making, confidence in implementation will still have value in 5 years. But how we do it, I think, is going to be dramatically different. And I'm super excited to figure that out. But I don't have an answer for you. But I do know that, as long as we're willing to do the most important thing next, and as long as we're willing to evolve, I'm super excited about our ability to be in the space and to provide value along the way.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Ashley, for your time, and that was really interesting. And yeah, let's bring this one to an end and hang out for 1 second. Ashley, just give me. Thank you all for tuning in. Bye-bye.